Greetings from the Sinhagat Dental College and Hospital, Pune. We, Dr. Bhushan Bhagat and Dr. Narayan Datta Pandey from Department of Oral and Maxillofacial Surgery, we are showing you MCU presentation of summer 2016. Coming to the first question.
Hello and I, Dr. Narayan Pandey, welcome you all for the exercise. Question 1. Siluria is A. Reduced salivation, B. Recessive salivation, D. Silolith, and D. Inflammation of salivary gland. I consider in this question a printing mistake. The correct answer would be excessive salivation. So consider B as a excessive salivation. We know that the reduced salivation is xerostomia. Silolith is a salivary stone, and inflammation of salivary glands are called siloadenitis. The the few reasons for siluria may be ill-fitting dentures, rabies, certain neurological disorders like cerebral palsy and Parkinson's disease. Treatment may include transdermal scopolamine, intraglandular botulinum. Surgical options may include relocation of submandibular or parotid duct, submandibular gland excision, and parotid duct ligation. Now, next question.
Coming to the next question. Dry socket is called as fibrinolytic alveolitis, tic dolorex, MPDS, anesthesia dolorosa. So the dry socket for other name for dry socket is a fibrinolytic alveolitis. As we know, for other names for dry socket are fibrinolytic alveolitis, alveolitis sicca dolorosa, alveolar osteitis, alveolar perostatis. So those are the dry socket, other names for dry socket. Coming to the other options like MPDS. MPDS is related with the TMJ disorders. Tic dolorax it is a other name for trigeminal neuralgia. And anesthesia dolorosa is a rare complications occurs after the surgical procedure of trigeminal neuralgia, especially after the rhizotomy. So dry socket is called as a fibrinolytic alveolitis. Moving to the next question. Mandibular torus is seen primarily in the following area: buccal to the bicuspid, lingual to the bicuspid, molar ramus area, and the chin. Here, the answer is straightforward. That is a lingual to the bicuspid. That is a lingual to the premolar. In maxillary torus, it is mainly occurs on palatal aspect. Moving to the next question. Lax screw are type of compression osteosynthesis, osseointegrated implants, intermaxillary fixation arch bars, distraction osteogenesis. Here, the correct option for lax screw are a type of A, that is a compression osteosynthesis. Here, as we know, lax screw fixation uses stabilization by compression. It is called as a load sharing osteosynthesis. Remember, the question is regarding IMF screw instead of lax screw. The answer could be related to intermaxillary fixation. But here, lax screw are a type of compression osteosynthesis. Moving to the next question.
Question 5. Parsh operation is indicated for A. Bell's palsy, B. Endodontic surgery, C. Carcinoma of buccal mucosa, and D. Cysts of the oral cavity. The correct answer is D. Cysts of the oral cavity. We know that Parsh has explained different procedures for the management of cyst. Parsh in 1892 described marsupialization, which is known as Parsh 1 procedure, and in 1910 he described enucleation, which is known as Parsh 2 procedure. So correct answer is D. Cysts of the oral cavity. Question number 6. Arthrocentesis is A. Surgical excision of capsule of TMJ, irrigation of the upper joint cavity, irrigation of the lower joint cavity, and D. None of the above. The correct answer for this is irrigation of the upper joint cavity. Nitzan and colleagues in 1991 described arthrocentesis to treat acute closed lock jaw. It is based on observation that lysis and lavage of upper joint space removes the inflammatory mediators and thus relieves the symptom. So it is something to remember that arthrocentesis is related to upper joint cavity. irrigation and lavage of upper joint cavity. Now the next question.
Moving to the next question. Investigation of imaging technology for mandible fractures are accept. So here the accept are in capital letters. So focused accept. So CBCT, plain conventional X-rays, CT scan and ECG. So this answer is ECG, electrocardiogram. Here the investigation techniques like CBCT, it is used for dentalvelar fractures. Plain conventional X-rays like PA view of mandible, reverse down view, it is useful for condylar fractures. And recently CT scan and 3D reconstruction are used in case of mandibular fractures. So coming to the next question, globulomaxillary cyst occurs in between maxillary canine and first premolar, in between mandibular canine and first premolar, in between mandibular canine and lateral incisor, in between maxillary canine and the lateral incisor. So here the correct option is B, that is a in between the maxillary canine and lateral incisor. So globulomaxillary cyst is a non-odontogenic cyst like a nasopalatine and nasolabial cyst. Nasopalatine and nasolabial along with globulomaxillary cyst are a non-odontogenic cyst. Location for globulomaxillary cyst is a D, that is a in between maxillary canine and lateral incisor. Other options like P, in between mandibular canine and first premolar, could be a answer if the question is regarding the lateral periodontal cyst. So lateral periodontal cyst mostly occurs in mandibular canine first premolar, and globulomaxillary cyst occurs in between maxillary canine and lateral incisor. Moving to the next question.
Question 9. Interpositional material in gap arthroplasty of TMJ are all except A. Fasciolata, B. Fat, C. Vitellium, and D. Skin. Probably the most appropriate answer would be option D, skin. All the four options have been used at different stages of time for the management of TMJ ankylosis as a gap arthroplasty material. But in recent times, the use of skin has slightly reduced because of other options available and the possible complications like formation of cyst because of the use of skin. There may be another complication like displacement of the graft. So the appropriate answer appears to be skin for this question. Now the question number 10. Tetracycline is contraindicated in A. Hypertension, B. AIDS, C. Children below 12 years, and D. Dentulous patients. The correct answer we know that is the children below 12 years of age. Tetracycline is known to cause permanent tooth discoloration if taken during odontogenesis by formation of insoluble tetracycline calcium orthophosphate complexes in dentine and enamel, which darken upon exposure to light. So it is something to remember that the tetracycline is related to tooth discoloration if exposed during odontogenesis. Now the next question.
Going to the next question, it is based on anatomy. Greater palatine foramina is situated between which of the following teeth? Maxillary first, second premolar, maxillary first molar and second premolar, maxillary first and second molar, maxillary second and third molar. So according to the Malamud, it is given option B, maxillary second and third molar. The greater palatine foramina is situated in between the maxillary second and third molar. So he studied on 158 skull, and about 91% he stated that it is lies between the second and third molars. Moving to the next question. Which of the following surgical procedure is indicated for removal of 3 cm of the anular stoma involving the inferior border of mandible? Options are enucleation, marsupialization, cryosurgery, and resection. Remember, here the amuloblastoma and involving the inferior border of mandible is most important. Having the 3 cm, we have to remove 3 cm of amuloblastoma. So more correct option is option D, that is a resection. Moving to the next question.
Question number 13. Trigeminal neuralgia most often affects A. Nerve, B. Left side nerve, both sides nerve together, and both sides nerve equally. The most appropriate answer appears to be A. Right side nerve. So the correct answer is A. Right side nerve. We know that the trigeminal neuralgia typically affects one side of the face, and very rarely it may affect bilateral presentation. And on literature reading, it has been established that there is a slight predilection on the right side of the face. So the consider right side as a answer for this question. Question number 14. Epithelial developmental cysts of jaws are all except options are A. Nasopalatine duct cyst, B. Lateral periodontal cyst, C. Gingival cyst of adult, and D. Odontogenic keratocyst. For this, the right answer is nasopalatine duct cyst. Scheer has classified developmental cyst under odontogenic category. Developmental cyst under odontogenic category. So in this option, except nasolabial cyst, all are derived from odontogenic tissues, whereas nasolabial cyst is possibly derived from the remnants of nasolacrimal duct. So consider nasopalatine duct cyst as the answer of this question. Now the next question.
Moving to the next question, the following are characteristic features of Ludwig's angina. As all we know, raised tongue, bilateral submandibular swelling, dysphagia are the characteristic features of Ludwig's angina. So it's a straightforward question and the answer is D, all of the above. Moving to the next question. It is difficult to obtain local infiltration anesthesia in presence of inflammation because options are a decreased pH, increased vascularity, edema, pain. Here, the in presence of inflammation, the option C, A, that is a decreased pH. Most of the local anesthetic agents are weak bases with pKa in between 8 and 9. In the presence of inflammation, that is in acidic pH, where pH is less, local anesthetic agents are less ionized and therefore they are not able to penetrate the tissues as fast as effective. So it is difficult to obtain local infiltration anesthesia in presence of inflammation because of a decreased pH. Moving to the next question.
Question number 17. Prophylactic removal of an unerupted tooth is accomplished with best results at a certain stage of tooth development. The best time to remove such tooth is A. When 2/3 of the root is formed, B. When the root is completely formed, C. Before any root is formed, and D. When the crown of the tooth is above the C junction of adjacent tooth. The most appropriate answer is A. When 2/3 of the root is formed. We generally prophylactic removal of unerupted tooth is mostly related to third molar surgeries. We know that morphology and anatomy of roots significantly affects the extraction difficulties and thus associated complications. Both poorly formed and fully formed roots may impose technical difficulties. So consider right answer as when the 2/3 of the root is formed. Now question number 18. Bilateral subcondylar fracture presents with A. Anterior open bite, B. Closed bite, C. Inability to open mouth, and D. An opening mandible moves forward. The right answer is anterior open bite. This is a very classical presentation of bilateral subcondylar fracture, which is associated with premature posterior contact on both sides with vertical loss of height of ramus, resulting in anterior open bite with very limited deviation. So always remember that bilateral subcondylar fracture is associated with anterior open bite and with no significant deviation. Now the next question.
Moving to the next question, repeated dislocation of condyle can be treated by intentional fractures of zygomatic arch and reunion. This procedure is called as a Daughtry procedure. Moving to the other options like Stobbe's method, it is a method of extraction. Denkels is not related with the zygomatic arch and TMJ. Weber-Ferguson incision is related with the exposure incision exposing maxilla and orbit. So Daughtry procedure, basically, initially in 1933, Mayer described the downward displacement of zygomatic arch acts by obstructing the path of the condylar translation moment. Afterwards, Daughtry modified this technique in which green stick fracture was performed at zygomaticotemporal suture and displaced anterior segment downward and inward to stop the forward and upward movement of the condylar head. So it is restricted to younger patients only. That is, it cannot be performed in elder patients. Moving to the next question.
The last question is, the characteristic feature of infection of masticator space is A. Swelling, B. Draining pus intraorally, C. And high grade fever. This is a very significant question that related to masticator space. The correct answer is trismus. We know that the masticator space infection has significant trismus and pain without any significant swelling. The reason attributed is that the tightly adhered tough parotidomasseteric fascia restricts swelling but causes intense pain and trismus. Thank you all.